Capoeira Angola is very different from the style of Capoeira Regional, from the bateria in Angola, called the charanga in Regional, to the movements that are done in the roda, to the rhythms that are played on the berimbau, to the kinds of songs that are sung in that roda. So there is a great song that says, tudo é diferente em Angola, 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 tudo é diferente em Angola. Yeah, everything's different in Angola. And so, my friends, today when we talk about Capoeira Angola, we will talk about a bunch of the differences in Capoeira Angola. And so, one of the first things that we should begin with is this wonderful instrument, the berimbau. The berimbau has different versions, different varieties in Capoeira Angola. And it is all not based on the verga, the bow. The name verga comes from the word envergar, to bend. The verga is usually made of a wood called beriba. Beriba grows only in Brazil. It's been tried to be transplanted in many different places without success. Epau, epau, pra fazer berimbau. Oi, beriba, epau. The wood to make berimbau is beriba. And so the difference is the thing on the end, the cabaça. As we talked about in the last class, in Capoeira Regional, the beriba is thinner, shorter, and lighter traditionally than in Capoeira Angola. It usually ends in Regional in a point. In Capoeira Angola, it usually ends in what we call a pé, the foot of the berimbau, which is sometimes circular, sometimes squared off, but not usually pointed. It's always pointed in Capoeira Regional. And so, what makes us different are the cabaças. And so, in Capoeira Angola, we have three traditional cabaças that are used. The largest of the cabaças, many people call the gunga. However, older, the velha guarda capoeiristas, they call all of them gungas. And so to be specific today, I want to give you the how you cannot mess this up in capoeira. If the mestre tells you to go get one, your answer is the beha boy, which is the bellowing bull. The beha boy can only be the largest, the deepest, the richest, the most bass cabaça that we have in our bateria. And so many people call the largest one the gunga, but some people call all of them the gunga. So to be very specific, the beha boy. The beha boy is the largest. That means that we have one that is a little smaller than beha boy. It's the one in the middle, because there are three berimbaus in Capoeira Angola. And so the safest name for the one in the middle would be medio, the middle one. And so some people call it the viola. And so if you call it the viola, but somebody isn't calling it the viola, we get a bit of confusion. So again, to be safe, the medio, the one in the middle. And that means that we have one smaller than the medio, which has a higher pitch. That we should always call the violinha, the smallest of the violas. And so here's what happens. Some people call this violinha, viola, and then the largest would be the gunga. But again, not everybody does. So in order to not make any kind of mistakes, this beha boy name applies only to this cabaça. So you can't mess that up. Medio applies only to the one in the middle. So you can't mess that up. Violinha is the smallest thing we got, so you can't mess that one up. And so our names, to be sure, to be safe, don't get in trouble with the mestre when they ask you to go get something and you brought back the wrong thing. Beha boy, medio, violinha. And so in capoeira, each one of these cabaças plays differently in the bateria. And so if I was playing the gunga traditionally in a roda plays the toque de Angola. Angola, 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 boy, biggest one, playing Angola, does not play many variations in a full bateria. The medio plays some variations. If this was the smallest, the violinha, it would play Salvento Grande de Angola and a lot of dobrados, a lot of variations. Birimbau. Como gostoso tocar birimbau. Cabaça, arame, pedaço de pau. How great is it to play birimbau? It's a cabaça, a wire, and a piece of wood. And so that takes us to our other instrumentos in the bateria. And so we also are joined by pandeiro. Pandeiro in Capoeira Angola usually looks like this. Made of wood with some spinny things on the side that make a good rattling sound, and an animal's hide stretched tightly across. And so when we play pandeiro and sing, pandeiro. Now I said in Angola, usually this. In Capoeira Regional, also made of wood, but a thinner, lighter wood, also an animal's skin, but the sound quality, the tonality is a little different. And in Capoeira Regional, we tend to have a more strict cadence of boom, ba, boom. Careful with those dobrados in Capoeira Regional. Mestre Bimba in many of his videos was known to give somebody the hard eye if he didn't like the sound of what he heard coming from pandeiro. And so be very careful with your pandeiro in Capoeira Regional. There's only one birimbau and two pandeiros, and those pandeiros are accompanying instruments, not the lead. And so don't try to steal the spotlight from birimbau and Regional, because Mestre Bimba, from wherever he is, may be giving you the stink eye. And so, the other kind of pandeiro we usually use for samba. A samba pandeiro is traditionally a synthetic material, not normally wood, with a synthetic skin, which delivers a different sound to it. And so traditionally in samba, we use a pandeiro like this. Now, we have just a few instruments left. Agogo. Agogo has two different forms. In Angola, sometimes it's agogo de aço, the metal. If we play the bass beat first, we're usually playing a slower game because the dominant note is kind of chill. It's a bass. But if we switch it, the intensity somehow changes. I didn't change the speed that I played at, or the intensity and the volume that I played at, but this makes you a little bit more hyper because that high note is in the lead. Now, another kind of agogo in Capoeira Angola is usually made of the coconut, and so agogo de coco sometimes is used in Angola, giving you a different sound. And then our last instrument that sits on the bench is the heko-heko. The heko-heko is actually one of my favorite instruments. For me, growing up in the 80s when it was the TR-808, two turntables and a mic, DJs just battling, this is like the original turntable, scratching. Love me some heko-heko. So, this is the last on the bench, but not our last instrument. Our last instrument is atabaque. Atabaque is traditionally made of wood, stretched animal skin, tied down with rope, held in place and toned by pieces of wood. atabaque is an instrument that we got to be careful with in the art of capoeira. Because if you mess up on the atabaque beat, everybody's going to hear you. You can hide on heco heco, but you cannot hide on atabaque. And so, when we play atabaque in Capoeira Angola, sometimes we use the traditional capoeira beat. Sometimes though, Angoleros like to use a different beat called ijexá. Ijexá was primarily used in the art of candomblé, borrowed by capoeiristas and brought into the roda. And so when we switch the direction of those beats, we get ijexá. Ijexá, though, it's important to note that your downbeat needs to be quite intense. People believe that their bass beat needs to be so intense, but it's the other way around. And so ijexá. Our instruments for Capoeira Angola, different in Capoeira Regional, and different in every Capoeira school. This is not how the bateria must be in a Capoeira Angola school. It can be however the mestre of that group wants it to be. So please let us be clear. In Capoeira Regional, Mestre Bimba wrote down how he wanted his charanga. Nobody wrote it down for Capoeira Angola because no one created Capoeira Angola. There's no one attributed to signing the registration forms for the style of Capoeira Angola in Brazil. That means Capoeira Angola is done how the teacher of that group or school wants it to be done. The way it is are house rules in Capoeira Angola. Their beat-and-bows can be where that mestre wants them. The atabaque can be what on side of the bench that mestre wants. They may not have agogô or heco heco. It is all up to that teacher. And so again, Capoeira Regional has rules, regulations, methodology. Capoeira Angola has traditions. And so we follow the traditions of Capoeira Angola as set and enforced by the teacher in that school. And so today we are going to do Capoeira Angola here in our school. So if you are ready, vamos embora, vamos gingar, vamos treinar, vamos all that stuff. Let's just get it going. Today's music comes courtesy of Mestre Moraes. Mestre Moraes is a student of Mestre João Pequeno in Salvador. He is the founder of the group Chica, Capoeira Angola Pelourinho. And so he is an amazing musician, amazing teacher. And so today we thank him for his contributions to our music in class. And now let us begin to ginga. That's our warm-up. When we ginga in Capoeira Angola, what is important to remember is this thing called molejo do corpo, the fluidity of your body. The Angolero can be identified in their ginga by their molejo and their manjinga, their trickery, their magic in the way that they move, how they have such dynamic ability. And so it's not about speed in capoeira, it's about style, technique. And so Angola is about manjinga and molejo. As always, we use the basic golpes, the basic kicks and escapes. We're going to start with meia lua de frente. So we are swinging our feet across this chair and finding our ginga. We swing the foot, we find our ginga. Swing and right back into ginga. Keep swinging and ginga. costas, a meia lua de costas, an armada de costas, all these amazing movements that we call things like queixada, meia lua, martelo. So, for the sake of not making your brain explode today, we'll deal with those names another day. Today, we'll call them traditional names and work on those movements. But the queixada in Angola is usually from a paralela base. So that's the one we're going to work on. It's a little sneakier. That manjinga, the trickery. Not the malicia, the evil, but the trickery. Up, music changes, we volta mundo. Walk around your chair. Back to ginga. And then this queixada from a parallel base. Capoeira in Angola, have some more trickery to it, is to double what you do. Simple enough. So we go back one kick to meia lua. Not two meia luas, one with each leg, but two meia luas with the same leg. So as soon as somebody finishes escaping the kick, they meet the exact same kick. So now, we're going to start with two meia luas, same leg, two kicks. What is him? 1, 2, ha-ha! 1, 2. There's a beautiful movement in Angola called disequilibrium or unbalancing. Many people call that banda, some call it rasteira. Imagine if you give yourself desequilibrante because you're off balance and you fall down in the middle of your kick. Bom demais! So remember earlier we talked about names of kicks. We're going to move on to martelo, that thing that the Angoleiros call chibatada. But remember, two of them. Volta mundo. So imagine your friend in the Honda has just done a beautiful esquiva away from your martelo, and as they get up and go back into ginga, they're met with another martelo. Two martelos. Dois martelos. Agora. Dois. Try to hold your first. Wait for them to get up. Then give the second. Esquiva. Ha ha. It's really capoeira has sound effects. If you kick somebody in the face and scream, ha ha, that's messed up. Now I happen to know many capoeiristas who would scream in your face. There's Sandro Baiano in Long Branch from Grupo Sol Nascente. He'll scream in your face. Contra Mestre Gaivota, in South Capoeira, down in Atlantic City, he'll laugh in your face. But I know some really good, nice capoeiristas who would feel bad if they kicked you. Malandro from Filhos de Bimba out in the Bay Area, he'll kick you in the face. And he'll actually feel bad about it. He'll come to you later on and be like, yo man, you gotta work on your shiva. Yo man, you gotta do better than that chiva. He'll let you know straight up. Even nicer, Mestre Gaivota, he would kick you in the face. He would feel so bad about it. He'd write a song, put it on his new CD. You'd be infamous as the muse or the inspiration for the latest track from Mestre Gaivota because you had a bad shiva. I thought we change our kick. We're going to work on the armada. We're only going to do one of these for now. We need to build up to 2 armadas. So we'll stop in our ginga base. We'll twist, 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 and bring that foot up and around and back into base. Whenever we're ready for armada, we stop in ginga base. Stop, prepare, turn. 1, 2, 3. Don't throw the kick if you can't see what you're kicking at. There's several reasons for that. Number 1, I want to take care of my partner. If they've escaped badly, I want to know about it and not kick them in the face. Or if they escape so well that they've got a beautiful contra-attack, a hashé is coming my way. If I lift up this leg, I'm going down. Always keep your eyes on your partner. As we get more comfortable with the armada, we don't do 3 steps anymore. We learn to get our turn and our lift in one smooth, fluid motion. As we get more comfortable, we'll be able to do 2. Volta mundo. So for now, just the 1, but work on making it smooth. So it's a turn and a lift in balança. Equilibre seu corpo. Keep your balance. So now, we're going to try to do those 2 armadas. When we start, as we're learning, we're going to put the foot down in between the 2. So it's armada, reset quickly, armada. Later, we're going to try not to put that leg down to get them both in the same spinning twist move. So for now, take your time with it. Armada, armada. There's a touchdown after the first one to reset your balance. Armada, touch, armada. Armada, touch, armada. As you're doing this at home, please remember, judgment-free zone. Don't get upset, get frustrated if you're not mastering this. If you've kicked your chair 12 times already, so Judgment-free zone means as you're looking through the camera, yeah, we slip too. We're sweating right now. It's hot in here. I get tired. So, if my movement's not perfect, forgive me, please. Judge less, forgive more. So now what we'd like to try are those two armadas without putting the foot down. This is where it gets much harder. So we want to see if our body can generate enough torque as it spins. 1, 2, in the same spin. Not easy. Remember that judgment-free thing we talked about? If you have after class time, do an internet search of Mestre She was the first female American Mestra of Capoeira. She does a beautiful double armada. Her fluidity, the way she moves is amazing. Check it out. Of Capoeira Angola, of Capoeira, period. It is called, in most styles, meia lua de compasso. Most Angoleros will call this movement Hamajahaya, tail of the stingray. And so, it's a spinning heel kick. You're doing what we just did, except you're shifting your hip forward first. Your hands will go flat to the floor, that straight leg in the back will swing around so that your heel comes over the chair. Heel over the chair. Getting up in guard. Don't get up like this. Get up in guard so if they did not escape and countered, they don't get you. Embora. Remember, it's like Armando. When you're ready, stop. Shift, swing, up and guard. Hands. Guard. Kick. Come up and guard. And then switch. Shake. Now as anticipated, 2 of these kicks. But when we do 2 of these kicks, we cut one short. We don't finish a double 360. What we do is we swing the leg twice. So to explain a little better requires the demonstration. So what I'm going to do is traditionally stop, shift my hip. I'm going to swing the foot over and not bring it back, but bring it right back around again. Over and around again. There's my double. On the other side, shift, bring it over once and around again. Across and right back around for that second swing. forward. The step forward depends on the space between you and the thing that you're kicking at, or the person or partner that you're working with. And so we're working with limited space and we're really close to our partner. But you know the best capoeira lives really close to your partner. And so we don't need to step farther forward. We need to throw the leg. You gotta judge the distance. It's a mathematical calculation. The length of your leg, the distance between you and the person, what part you would like to hit them with, the heel is what I'm striking with, not the calf or the back of my knee. So I want to make sure that my heel is striking the middle of their body. If I'm nice and I'm coming across the front, intentional to miss, that's me being nice. But if I'm going right through the middle of your center mass, I want you to esquiva. Volta mundo. Dripping with sweat. I'm sorry if there's some background noise, but we had to put the fans on. It's hot up in here. Ginga. Now with our duplas, we're going to put two things together that move together. Our first one will be meia lua armada. So we continue the flow and the motion. So, por exemplo, meia lua armada. You notice I stayed right here. Don't meia lua armada and travel. What I don't want to do is give my meia lua here and then give my armada over here because the person is still here. Stay centered. Embora. Meia lua armada. Center. Meia lua armada. Center. And cut down the glare. I just changed the angle. Volta, mundo! Next movement. Au. Au. If you're a capoeirista, go find out the answer to this question. Why is au the only movement that name never changes in any style of capoeira, means the same thing everywhere? It's the only thing other than Ginga that we all agree on. Figure that one out. Au. When we do au now, no traveling, no starting out from here and finishing. Where did I go? This is not a magic trick. We're not trying to disappear. If I'm doing au, I want to stay right here in the center. If I go out the other way, stay right here in the center. If I'm using out to escape, fine, run away. Right now, we want to practice out. Stay in your space. Goodbye. instead of going forwards, advanced capoeiristas are not going forwards. Advanced capoeiristas are going backwards. Backwards. And of course, still staying in the same place.
For pausing in the middle of his track, but what we're going to be doing now constitutes this thing called a secuencia, a sequence. When you put two movements together, not really a sequence. Well, you start to put three things together, maybe four things together, you're really doing a secuencia. And so you have to be very careful when learning secuencias in capoeira, because many of the sequences that I see people attempting to put together require that their partner perfectly interact with all 7 of those very complicated movements. And so what I feel is really good for training as a capoeirista is to train simple sequences. So for example, armada ao rolê. If I did armada and you escaped and you counterattacked, I could do ao rolê to get out of the way. But when I start to do a sequence that has 4, 5, 6 pieces to it, it means that you had to do the matching 4, 5, 6 pieces in order for my sequence to work. So please, capoeiristas at home, don't do yourselves a disservice by training something that requires perfect interaction, because there's no choreography in capoeira. I've never seen people draw a diagram prior to entering the roda. Make sure that your game flows. 2, 3, pushing it with 4 movements that you're going to do in a row requires that the other person works with you. 2, easy. 3, you'll get away with that. 4, you're pushing your luck. 5, 6, what were you thinking about? 7, you look ridiculous right now. 8, everybody's wondering why you're not playing with your partner. All right, so armada ao rolê. Image 1, image 2, image 3. We're providing these videos so that you have the opportunity to train as hard as you want, as light as you want, whenever you want, wherever you want. And so, again, if you have questions, send them. I talked briefly about a question that was sent out this week about training sequencia. Now, there is the teaching sequence in Capoeira Regional da sequência da ensino da capoeira regional. And so, if you ever work on that teaching sequence, Mestre Bimba did something really amazing. He rarely has more than 3 consecutive movements done in a row by the same person. Because when you start to train long, complicated sequences, it requires choreography. And that doesn't always work in capoeira. A great example of beautiful choreography is in the style of capoeira called Miudinho with the group Cordão de Ouro, founded by Mestre Suassuna. He has a teaching sequence. If you watch Cordão de Ouro players move, they move beautifully with each other because they've trained their sequences. And so when one starts a particular set of movements, the other can recognize what else is coming because they've trained those sequences. If you've not mastered the complicated but beautiful sequences of Cordão de Ouro, please be careful, because your partner doesn't know what you're doing, and you wind up then doing a solo rather than playing with your partner. So, please be careful with your sequences, keep them simple. It's the KISS principle. Keep it simple. I don't want to say the last word, but keep it simple. Simple. Então, we will meet again on Wednesday and then again on Friday. We'll continue this for as long as we have to. And I was talking to Mestre Morcego from Capoeira Malays in DC. We're going to continue this after this is passed. We're going to start recording our classes when we have regular classes and keep putting them out there for people so that other people in other places, lands, countries, across seas and in different time zones can continue to train with us. We're actually creating community. Capoeira is all about creating community. Right now, we're kind of separated, but we're all going to come back to one amazing roda, but we don't want to lose this connectivity that we found thanks to this tragedy. And so, my friends, adeus, adeus, e boa viagem. Tchau, tchau.